Sunrise Academy wasn't just a school, it was a symbol of hope. Set against a backdrop of lush green hills, the school stood as a testament to the community's commitment to education. Every morning, the air around it buzzed with the chatter of students who walked miles to reach its gates. Teachers were revered, not just as educators but as mentors who shaped futures. Parents, many of whom had never had the privilege of formal education, placed their aspirations in the hands of the school's dedicated staff. To them, Sunrise Academy was more than a building, it was a beacon of possibility. Among the students were four inseparable friends: Kofi, Amara, Chaik, and Saad. They were bound by their shared dreams and struggles. Each came from a family with high hopes. Kofi, the ringleader, was known for his infectious charisma but also his recklessness. Amara, cautious and wise beyond her years, often played the role of the group's moral compass. Chaik was the joker, always ready to lighten the mood, while Saad was the quiet thinker, her eyes often lost in a distant dream. Their teachers saw potential in them, and their parents had great expectations. Yet, beneath the surface, each of them felt the weight of these expectations in different ways. Kofi struggled to balance his natural leadership with his impulsive nature. Amara carried the silent burden of her family's sacrifices. Chaik masked his insecurities with humor, while Saad often felt like her dreams were just out of reach. The rumors begin. The first whispers of the midnight beat reached the students through older siblings and market gossip. It wasn't an ordinary nightclub. Stories circulated about its almost magical allure, the way the music seemed to seep into your soul, the way time blurred, and the way it promised an escape from the mundanity of everyday life. Kofi was the first to catch wind of it. One afternoon, as the group sat under the old baobab tree, sharing roasted groundnuts, he leaned in conspiratorially. "Have you heard about the midnight beat? They say it's like stepping into another world." Amara frowned, her instinctive caution kicking in. "Another world? That sounds suspicious." "It's just a club, Amara," Kofi said with a grin. "But they say the music is like nothing you've ever heard. We should go, just once, to see what it's like." Chaik chuckled. "You just want to dance all night and show off your terrible moves." Saad looked up from her sketchpad, where she'd been drawing the baobab's twisting branches. "It sounds interesting. But what about school?" Kofi waved her concern away. "One night won't hurt. Besides, aren't you curious?" Despite their initial reservations, the seed of curiosity had been planted. A night of firsts. On the night of their first visit, the town seemed to hold its breath. The streets were quiet, and the stars shimmered like scattered diamonds. The friends met at Kofi's house, their excitement mingling with nervousness. The midnight beat was on the outskirts of town, tucked away in a grove of ancient trees. As they approached, the sound of the music reached them, deep, pulsating, and alive. The building itself seemed to glow faintly, as if it held a secret. Inside, the air was thick with energy. The dance floor was a sea of movement, and the lights cast surreal patterns on the walls. The friends were swept away by the music, their worries melting as they lost themselves in the rhythm. But not everything was as it seemed. Saad noticed something odd about the dancers, the way their movements seemed too synchronized, too perfect, as if they were controlled by an unseen force. "Don't overthink it," Kofi said when she pointed it out. "Just enjoy the pull of the beat." Over the weeks, the midnight beat became their escape. Homework was forgotten, and the once tight bonds with their families began to fray. Teachers' warnings went unheeded, and their grades slipped. Kofi shrugged it off, but Amara began to feel the weight of guilt. One night, as they prepared to leave, Saad hesitated. "Have you ever noticed how time feels different in the club? Like it stretches and bends?" Chaik laughed nervously. "That's just the fun talking." But deep down, they all felt it, the growing unease that came with their visits. The warning signs intensified. Days turned into weeks, and the grip of the midnight beat grew tighter. The friends began to notice troubling signs. Kofi, once the group's fearless leader, was now consumed by an uncharacteristic desperation. "We need to go tonight," he insisted one evening, pacing in his room. "I can't sit still." Amara's protests became weaker with each passing day. Her resolve, once firm, crumbled under the relentless pull of the club. Chaik and Saad, who used to be the voices of reason and balance, now found themselves following Kofi without question. The rhythm of the club echoed in their minds even in silence, its beat a haunting reminder of their entrapment. At school, their absence in spirit was impossible to ignore. Teachers sent notes home, and neighbors whispered about the changes in the once vibrant group. But the pull of the midnight beat was too strong for them to care. A haunting encounter. One stormy evening, the storyteller sought them out again. The rain lashed against the windows of Kofi's home, where the group had gathered. The elderly man stood at the door, soaked but unwavering. His presence was unnerving, his eyes glowing with a knowing intensity. "You ignored my warning," he said, his voice carrying the weight of the storm. "Now, the time has come to face the truth." The friends exchanged uneasy glances. Kofi tried to dismiss him again, but his words faltered under the storyteller's piercing gaze. "What do you mean?" Saad finally asked, her voice trembling. "The midnight beat is no ordinary place. It thrives on those who stray from their purpose, feeding on their energy in dreams. You are trapped in its rhythm, but there is still a way out." His words sent shivers down their spines. The storyteller handed them a small, intricately carved drum. "This drum carries the heartbeat of truth. Take it with you tonight. Its rhythm can guide you back to yourselves, if you have the courage to face what you've lost." The last dance. That night, the friends entered the midnight beat with the drum hidden in Sada's bag. The club was as mesmerizing as ever, but the air was charged with an eerie tension. The music seemed louder, more insistent, and the lights flickered erratically. As they joined the crowd, the drum began to emit a faint pulse, as though alive. Saad clutched it tightly, its steady rhythm grounding her. She whispered to the others, "Stay close. We need to hold on to this rhythm." The man with eyes like burning coals appeared again, his presence commanding. "You dare to bring another rhythm into my domain?" he thundered, his smile vanishing. The crowd froze, their faces void of emotion, as though they were mere puppets. The friends gripped each other's hands, the drum's rhythm anchoring them. They began to play it softly, its sound cutting through the oppressive beat of the nightclub. The man's expression twisted in anger, and the ground beneath them began to shake. The battle for freedom. The friends clung to the drum as the midnight beat's oppressive rhythm gave way to an eerie silence. They were no longer in the nightclub, instead, they found themselves in a surreal, pulsating labyrinth. The walls seemed alive, glowing with faint, ominous lights that flickered to the beat of their own anxious hearts. Shadows danced along the corridors, whispering their fears and regrets back to them. Kofi tightened his grip on the drum, its steady rhythm their only anchor in this disorienting maze. "Stay together," he urged, his usual bravado tempered by fear. "We can get through this." Kofi's reckoning. As they ventured deeper, the labyrinth seemed to single them out one by one. Kofi was the first to be confronted. The path ahead twisted, and suddenly he was alone. A large mirror appeared before him, shimmering with a golden glow. As he approached, the image inside the mirror shifted to show his parents. They stood silently, their eyes filled with disappointment and sadness. "Why did you abandon your potential?" his mother's voice echoed, her tone heavy with heartbreak. "You had so much promise, but you chose the rhythm of distraction." Kofi fell to his knees, the weight of their unspoken expectations pressing down on him. For the first time, he felt the true depth of his guilt. "I was wrong," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I wanted to feel alive, but I lost sight of what mattered." The mirror shimmered and dissolved into golden dust, leaving a clear path ahead. The drum's steady beat called to him, guiding him back to his friends. Amara's versions. Amara was next. The labyrinth led her into a vast room filled with reflections, each one showing a different version of herself. She saw a version of her that was confident and successful, standing at the head of a classroom, inspiring others. Another reflection showed her laughing and joyful, surrounded by friends who admired her strength. But then, the reflections darkened. She saw herself sitting alone, her eyes hollow, trapped in a cycle of regret. The image sneered, "This is what you become when you let fear and distraction rule you." Amara hesitated, trembling. But the drum's rhythm grew louder in her ears, steady and unyielding. "I choose to be better," she declared, her voice firm. "I will not let this version of me win." The room dissolved, and she emerged stronger, reuniting with Kofi. Chaik's laughing shadow. Chaik was led down a corridor that seemed to laugh at him. His own laughter echoed back, but it was cruel, mocking his carefree attitude. A shadowy figure emerged, resembling Chaik but with twisted features and a sinister grin. "You think laughter can mask your fears? You've used it to avoid responsibility, to escape from the truth." Chaik clenched his fists, anger boiling within him. "Laughter is my strength, not my weakness," he countered. "But I will no longer use it as a shield." The shadow melted into darkness, and the path cleared. He joined Kofi and Amara, his resolve renewed. Sada's fragile dreams. Sad found herself in a garden of glass flowers, each one representing her dreams. They shimmered with ethereal beauty, but as she reached for them, they began to crack and shatter. Her heart ached as the fragments turned to dust. "You've let your dreams slip away," a voice whispered. "Can you save them?" Sad knelt and gently cradled the remaining flowers. "I may have lost my way, but I will nurture what remains," she said, her voice steady. As she spoke, the flowers began to bloom anew, their colors more vibrant than before. She returned to the group, the drumbeat uniting them as they approached the labyrinth's final challenge. The confrontation. At the heart of the labyrinth, they found the man with burning eyes. His presence was overwhelming, the rhythm of the midnight beat pulsating from him like a storm. "You think you can defy me?" he roared. "You've tasted my rhythm, and you will never escape it." But the friends stood together, the drum's rhythm stronger than ever. They played in unison, their determination a powerful harmony that clashed with the man's oppressive beat. The labyrinth.